What's up guys, Foxen here. Time for the chapter 115 follow-up discussion. So many burning questions from a lot of you. Whatever happened to Levi? Who is that mysterious young girl? Before starting, be sure to give a close thumbs up and subscribe. Let's go ahead and get started, then follow up with a few questions from you. First off, before getting to Levi, let's talk about Zeke. So this chapter, this guy has the ultimate plot armor, more than even freaking Reiner. Putting that mysterious thing aside for a second, I wanted to bring up this. Doesn't Zeke look younger? I don't know if it was just me thinking about that, but that's something that instantly came to mind the first time I saw the manga panel shot. Unfortunately, we cannot tell his hair color, but I still have this feeling. Of course, one of the major reasons for this is really the question about whether his 13 years got reset. That would truly be the work of Ymir. And talking about Ymir, how about addressing the little girl? So maybe I'm gonna have a full video about this, but let me just give a few possible options for who this girl is. Obviously, a lot of us want this to be the original Ymir. In my last video, I brought up the idea about her being possibly one of the previous past founding Titan users. As for other options, instead of Ymir, how about one of Ymir's daughters? You know, Wall Maria, Wall Rose, or Wall Sina, except without the wall part. If it's not one of Ymir's daughters, how about a previous Beast Titan, potentially even the first Beast Titan user? And the last possible option, which is really the boring option, that this young girl is really just a human form of this Titan. So go ahead and post down below, who do you think this mysterious girl is? By the way, let me also just clarify that this Titan was most likely the one that the Beast Titan ripped apart in the previous battle. Which means if this was a human form of that previous Titan, wasn't that Titan one of the scout soldiers? So I'm not sure if that makes too much sense. Alright, moving on, let's talk about Levi, and there are a lot of Levi questions. First off, let me just mention that Levi not dying but in critical condition would mean that Mikasa's not getting the Super Saiyan Ackerman upgrade. I got a feeling that's part of Isayama's reason for not killing him off. Although, a minor thing in the whole equation. Anyway, the first thing I do want to mention about Levi is that this guy did not land on his head. If you actually look at the first panel, you can see him facing forward. In other words, this guy landed facing forward. Which really just means that Levi did not crack his head on that rock in the next panel shot, the one with Hange. Although this does mean he could have smashed his face in. Next up, let me actually address this thing about Levi dying on this side mission, or potentially dying. There's so many of you bringing up that he couldn't have possibly died since Levi made this promise to Erwin. In other words, Levi cannot die since he hasn't completed that promise. But honestly, let's be very real about this. This sounds very much like Attack on Titan. You mean someone's gonna die without completing their special promise to somebody? If anything, that'd be more reason for Levi to freaking bite it. So, my question to you. What do you want to happen to Levi now? Should Levi make this partial recovery, then have this climactic death? Should Levi go down fighting? Or is it possible for Levi to open his tea shop one day? Who knows, perhaps Hange's gonna squeeze some Titan juice into Levi's mouth. Then just to see if anything happens. So I'm really curious, post down below. I know some of you want to see this robot Levi, complete with some metal equipment, if you know what I mean. Just go ahead and go the Full Metal Alchemist route. Well, hello there. A huge thank you to Patreon supporters, including new ones. If you do enjoy all the videos I put out monthly, do consider becoming a Patreon supporter. As you can see, I'm actually moving out so I could do this full time. More info on that in a few weeks, maybe. Anyway, link for the Patreon page down below. First Patreon question from T. Smith. Do you think Eren is really going to follow with Zeke's plan all the way through, or does Zeke have his own plan? Okay, so for this, I think right from the beginning, I always thought that Eren had his own agenda. It very much seemed that both of the Yeager brothers had similar goals, but both of them had different ways of actually achieving that. With the recent events, we now find out what exactly is Zeke's plan, his euthanasia plan. And then, I think it's almost pretty predictable, but I'm pretty sure that Isayama's gonna make Eren turn around, and eventually something's gonna get revealed that Eren was trying to do the good thing all this time. Not to mention, in the latest chapter, he just had the thing about Zeke asking Eren about his plan, whether Eren was on board with it. Very interestingly, Eren didn't answer the question directly. He just went on a tangent just talking about this other stuff. I think that pretty much seals the deal. Eren's just gonna do his own thing. Next question from Kashmir Fox. Here's something that I've been wondering. Why does Zeke want all the world to descend on Paradise? Couldn't he and Eren just activate the Roamling to kill all Eldians? Okay, so a very popular question that a lot of people have been asking. Why didn't Zeke and Eren just do their thing back at Marley? And honestly, that is a good point. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could have just set their plan in motion back at Marley. The thing about that is that I'm pretty sure if Zeke just told Eren to initiate the plan right there, Eren would have made some excuse about it and just delayed the whole process. I'm also not sure about Zeke back at Marley. Was Zeke still 100% about killing all Eldians, or simply going the no baby option? I think that may have played a bigger factor with it. And regarding the whole world descending on Paradise Island, I'm pretty sure that Zeke doesn't want that, especially right now. The only issue is that these guys back on Paradise Island are taking so freaking long. Ideally, if things went according to Zeke and Eren's plan, the two brothers would have already met. Hell, they would have already had that freaking demo. Next question from Abraxas Beelzebub. Do you think we'll ever see Eren's view on all that happened ever since the time skip? Ah yes, Eren's point of view. For this, I actually think there's a good chance. I'm really just hoping that Isayama doesn't do it like other shonen series. Like, oh, this character's about to die, or they're very close to dying, and then suddenly we see their tragic backstory, or in this case, their tragic flashback for Eren. I'm really hoping that Isayama does it a little bit more subtly instead of just making it a full chapter about, oh, this is Eren's point of view, and then he dies or gets severely injured the next chapter. By the way, if Attack on Titan is ending on chapter 130, I really don't think we're going to see that for a while. If anything, Isayama's going to keep on dropping hints here and there via Eren. Next question from Valkrust. How did Eren know there were infiltrators on Paradise? Ah yes, Eren mentioned the possibility of agents on Paradise Island in the recent chapter, and then Peak showed up. The thing about this is that I'm pretty sure that Eren wasn't 100% sure. Keep in mind that Eren had been over there at Marley for months and months. I'm pretty sure that Eren had gotten a good idea about things they would try, especially just trying to predict what Reiner would do or the Marley government. Previously, their estimate was the world attacking in what, 5, 4, 6 months? I'm pretty sure that any military leader would have at least considered the possibility of the enemy attacking way sooner by surprise. I mean, Eren did it, why couldn't the other side do it too? Which is almost exactly what Peak did. Next question from The Mentor, also new Patreon supporter, so welcome. Do you think the Ymir figure used the source of life as Kruger said to heal and repair Zeke? So this question referring to the scene of someone playing Monster Reborn on Zeke. As to whether I think that's a possibility? Definitely. The thing about this source of life, that still is pretty vague. I'm not sure how much Isayama wants to go into the magical realm. Or perhaps it's just unavoidable at this part. I mean, you have giant naked men Titan magically appearing out of nowhere. As to whether the source of life was used to heal Zeke, honestly, right now that whole scene may have like 100 different explanations. I really hope we get something more concrete about it, which I think you will get, just not anytime soon. Last question from Distract Enemies. If Levi was given the Titan serum, would he regenerate or turn into a Titan? Ah yes, the first Levi question. So there's actually been a lot of discussion about Levi and possible chances of him regenerating. Just keeping in mind that Levi is part Ackerman and part Eldian, most likely from his father's side. Whether his father was a subject of Ymir, it'd be weird if he wasn't, just given the population of the walls. So back to the question about Levi. If he suddenly gets injected, would he turn into a Titan? To be honest, I really don't see this guy just magically regenerating. I do think that turning Levi into a mindless Titan to help him recover isn't too crazy actually. The problem then becomes actually just getting a mindless Titan shifter. What would happen then? Next up, getting to your questions. If you want to get a chance for me to answer your question, be sure to follow me on Twitter and tweet me your question. And really quickly, let me mention this update once, regarding the Twitter questions. I do have someone helping screen these questions, and I'm gonna be getting stricter on them. So it is up to you not to send in very similar questions, multiple questions, anything that's already been addressed multiple times, especially in the actual manga video. And also just be sure to do his basic things like follow me and include the hashtag. If you do want to get a guaranteed question in, become a Patreon supporter. Link down below. First question up from Beaks. Do you think that Hange will be able to take care of Levi and maybe have a meaningful conversation with him? So about the whole Levi-Hange situation, there really is just two strong possibilities. Either Hange is going to be able to take Levi and take him somewhere to recover for who knows how long. Or unfortunately, Hanji's going to drag Levi out of the river, and then Levi's going to have his final moment scene. So if Levi is actually going to die, I'm pretty sure both of these will have some meaningful conversation. On the other hand, depending on how injured Levi is, as long as this guy is not in a coma, you could be sure that both of these two will talk. Next question up from Peak. Do you think that Hange has any feelings for Levi? And what do you think was going inside of her head when she saw him? Any kind of feelings as in romantic feelings? For this, I kinda doubt it. I mean, previously before the time skip, Hange was super obsessed with other things. Then, if you actually go post-time skip, at least from what we've seen from Hange, I don't sense anything romantic about them. It really just seems like both of these are very close friends. As to what was going inside of Hanji's head when she saw him, I'm pretty sure she was freaking devastated. Next question from Motako-san. So Levi is still alive. How will they get him out of there with Zeke around? How do you think they will escape? So I'm not sure if this question actually got sent in before the chapter or after, but you actually already saw them escape. Yes, you do have the Eren cult and Zeke around. However, right now it seems like the priority for them is to get back to Eren's hometown as soon as possible. For me, it really didn't seem like they're interested at all trying to chase down Hange and this half-dead Ackerman corpse. Which, to be honest, depending on what happens with Hange and Levi, may be one of their biggest mistakes yet. Next question from Nikki. Do you think that Hange could take Levi to Historia since she is nearby? The thing about Hange and Levi's escape is that they're pretty much in the middle of nowhere. They should have been very close to the Titan Forest. In other words, any houses nearby should have been very old ones left over before the Titan attack. So about Hange actually taking Levi to Historia, that may actually be one of the best options. The problem is, how do you actually get there? It doesn't really seem like they have any transportation. Pretty sure that the horses got killed. And really, how far possibly could Hange drag Levi's body? Levi's dying body. Next question up from Kara Socks. I noticed something. What if Levi isn't actually unconscious? I could be wrong, but look at his eyes. It looks like when Hange said his name, his eyes shifted to look at her. And if you look closely before she jumps in the river, his eyes appear closed. Could he be awake? So about this, I'm actually 50-50 as to whether Levi was actually unconscious or conscious. But really trying to determine this from the actual manga panels, I've actually seen several of you mention this in my original manga discussion video, and just going based off the officially released manga, it is super hard to tell. This is just one of the things that it'd be much easier to tell in the anime. Either way, does it matter? I'm pretty sure that Levi didn't die, at least not yet. Next question up from Rodrigo. Do you think that Eren is finally going to end this 2,000 years of fear and pain with Zeke, or betray him? So I think by now you know my position on this. I'm pretty sure that the two Yeager brothers' thoughts are not 100% in line. Zeke really just wants to wipe out his people, and Eren's like, yeah, I'll go ahead with their plan, while secretly just thinking in the back of his head, I'm gonna do my own thing. You bring up something else here though, the 2,000 years, specifically about fear and pain. We know there has been this 2,000 year mark that's been important to the story. The thing is, has it all been about fear and pain? As far as we know, one version of history puts the Titan as these great magical beings, everything was supposedly great. Even if that's not 100% true, I'm pretty sure there was actually a period of time where the Titans weren't actually that bad of a thing. Next question up from Lord Death. Who is the little girl? About the little girl, I think one of the things that everyone thought initially is that could that have been the original Ymir? So I think that is a good possibility. I'm not really sure whether it's really just highlighted with more people wanting to see or some glimpse of the original little girl Ymir. So just given that people want that, I got a feeling that Isayama's gonna throw a curveball at us. What if that's not Ymir? Next question up from Kurohige. Euthanasia versus Rumbling, which will be the event that puts the series to an end? Unfortunately, for better or worse, Isayama has already shown you the final Attack on Titan panel. As to whether we're gonna get this mass wipeout of the Eldian people, at this point I highly doubt it. Although I don't necessarily think it's an either or situation. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty convinced at this point that the rumbling, or some sort of at least demo rumbling, will happen. I'm not sure whether that'll necessarily put the series to an end though. Next question from Johnny. What do you think about this theory? If a Titan dies, their powers get transferred to a newborn baby. What if when Zeke died, before he was resurrected by the child inside of that Titan's stomach, he lost the Beast Titan power? Or it got transferred to Historia's baby? So about this, I'm not sure why there are so many people that want Historia's baby to get these Titan powers. There was that earlier idea that if Zeke dies, the powers will be transferred to Historia's baby. I mean, are that few amount of Eldian babies being born? And now you bring up this other idea about Zeke's powers suddenly being transferred over to that baby. Honestly, let me just say this. I really think that Historia's baby will be one of the first newborn Eldians without any connection to the Titan powers. In other words, Historia's baby, if you inject that thing with a syringe, it's not gonna go into Titan mode. And also, I really don't think Zeke just randomly lost the power. Unless Isayama just randomly brings up more Titan roles that we don't know of. I mean, it is possible, but I think the chances are very unlikely. Next question up from Dark Zoe. Zeke has just been resurrected, so how long do you think he'll live? Another 13 years. This question. I actually think this question has more possibility. So I actually have seen this idea around that Zeke just suddenly got resurrected. Does that mean his timer got reset? And to be honest, I was actually thinking this too when I first saw the manga panels. The only thing that would confirm that or wouldn't confirm that would be the color of Zeke's hair. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, we cannot tell with the manga panels. To me, Zeke actually did look younger. So I'm not saying that it's confirmed that his time got reset, but I actually think perhaps his time did get extended somehow. Again, not a 50% chance, but a decent chunk. Next question up from Pikachu Polka. Will Eren end up eventually eating Armin and getting the Colossal Titan? So I think we have seen variations of this idea being brought up. So really quickly, let me just say that it really depends whether the final goal of Attack on Titan is gathering all Titan powers in one spot. I think that idea by itself has been very popular. So if that is necessary to happen, either Eren has to eat all the Titans or Armin has to eat all of them. Or who knows, perhaps some other entity has to eat all of them or gather them. Next question up from Miguel. In your chapter 114 discussion video, you question if the original Ymir ever existed and mentioned that Eren possibly knows the truth about her. Has your opinion changed after seeing the Path Girl and Zeke's confusion towards her? So for this question about the original Ymir, I have questioned the original Ymir ever existing because that's just been one of the underlying ideas of Attack on Titan, questioning this questionable history. So whether my opinion has changed after seeing the latest events? To be honest, I don't see why they would. We haven't actually gotten a confirmation about that being Ymir. If we do, I think that would drastically affect it, but until then, no real change there. Next question from Stick. I think we are having Levi as a robot and half badass, if that can still happen. Ah yes, Levi being turned into a freaking robot. Levi may turn into the first Terminator. What about that? By the way, do share what you're smoking. Next question from Dimcrossed. $1 million question. Do you think Eren will be a Zero or Yagami-like vibes in this arc? So I think this question is actually pretty easy to answer. I mean, if you go by Death Note, Light became a villain very early on into the series. He kind of temporarily shifted back to this very justified, honest person, but again, that was only temporary. For better or worse, Eren is getting compared to Lelouch and Zero, and I'm pretty sure those comparisons aren't gonna drop. It really ultimately depends on how Attack on Titan will end. I mean, since the attack on Marley, people have been comparing this to Code Geass. I've also seen other comparisons to Evangelion and even Fullmetal Alchemist. Again, for better or worse, now we're at the point where we have these very known anime endings. And unfortunately for Attack on Titan, depending on how it ends, it's gonna be compared left and right to these, whether justified or not. Next question up from Kevin. I heard an idea that instead of Mikasa being involved in some final battle, she'll take Gabby and Falco to get them out of danger. Then Mikasa and Gabby will have some alone time to talk, and maybe that'll help Mikasa understand what Eren is doing. Is this possible? Okay, so the first part about this. I'm pretty sure that Mikasa is going to be involved in this final battle. Although Mikasa having some alone time with Gabby and Falco, I don't think both of these are mutually exclusive. So you know me, I do want to get more and more out of Mikasa, since we gotten very minimal from her. As to whether Gabby could be how Mikasa finds out more about what Eren has been doing, sure, I would definitely love that. Next question up from Billy Smith. What will the scouts do to Zeke? Will they stop him from getting to Eren? Will the scouts do anything to prevent Zeke from getting to Eren? Because right now the scouts are locked up in jail. I mean, right now they're definitely not in a position to do anything about both of these two guys meeting up. Next question up from George the Destro. Why do you think Eren said to Gabby to get the warriors to react? So for this, I'm really just building on some of the thing I mentioned earlier. It's very likely that Eren knew that the warriors would come much earlier than expected. I mean, when Pieck just popped out, he definitely looked surprised. In other words, now that you actually have someone from Marley, specifically Gabby, why not use her as bait to get the warriors to come out of hiding? Sounds like a perfect plan. Unfortunately, it did seem like Pieck was one step ahead of Eren at this point. We'll see if Pieck actually survives. And talking about Pieck, the next question from Diona. Do you think Pieck will stop Eren from meeting with Zeke? So yes, that cliffhanger ending, Pieck pulling a gun on Eren's head. So right now we already know that Eren is not going to die. And Pieck not outright shooting and taking out Eren means that most likely she's going to die. However, I'm really more curious about their conversation. What are they going to talk about next chapter? To be honest, I really don't think that Pieck is in any position to stop Eren from doing anything, unless she actually takes him out. So there's a couple of possibilities that may come out from this. Either Pieck's gonna die, Pieck's gonna shoot Eren and kill him, or who knows, Pieck may even switch sides. That could be interesting. Next question up from Veendra. If Levi really died, what is your opinion on the cause of death? So I think right now it's pretty much guaranteed that Levi did not die. The only question now becomes whether Levi's gonna die when Hange gets him out of the river. So I'll just quickly mention that if Levi does end up dying like this, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. That would definitely be one of the low points of this Marley arc. I mean, at this point I do expect way much better from Isayama. Next question up from Nami. Do you think there's something special with this Titan who brought Zeke into its stomach? So yes, there's been so many questions about whether this is a special Titan. To be honest, I really don't think there's anything too special about the Titan. I'm really buying more and more into my previous idea that I brought up in my video, about whether this possible past founding Titan is controlling this Titan. Next question up from Ellis, Attack on Titan fan. How do you want Attack on Titan to end? And let me just mention, super vague question. This could be actually a video topic on its own. So really quickly, not thinking about it way too much, I really want Attack on Titan to end in this hopefully not too predictable way. But let me also mention this, I think right now people are way too focused on how Attack on Titan will end. How about the actual journey, getting to that endpoint? If anything, I'm more concerned about that. Come on, Isayama, make the journey super interesting and not too predictable. Because ultimately, I think both of these will be important. The actual journey to the endpoint and the actual endpoint itself. Next question out from Sierra. Do you think that Zeke does not trust Eren completely and plans to entrust the founding Titan to Yelena? He seems to have groomed, brainwashed her, and she may be the most foolproof way to complete his euthanasia plan. So a couple quick things about this. I do hope that at least Zeke does consider the possibility of Eren betraying him. I mean, come on, he does have the supposedly 11-point intelligence. And about the other thing you bring up about entrusting the founding Titan to Yelena. For this part, I really have to question how though. Yelena, as far as we know, is not Eldian, which means she cannot take the Eldian power herself. Unless you mean by extension Yelena getting this Eldian person, turning them into a Titan, then just sticking the founding Titan power in that person. That could be a possibility. And just about the part about Yelena potentially being his insurance plan, to be honest right now I'm really questioning how far Zeke has actually thought this through. With that explosion going off, it really seemed that Zeke really didn't think that through. On the other hand, most likely it seemed that even Zeke thought that he would die from that explosion. Right now I really think we need to find out more about Yelena's mindset. It really seems like she may have her own agenda in the background. Next question up from Levi is My Little Possum. Do you think that Levi may have cracked his head off that rock next to him and perhaps sustain amnesia if he lives and maybe wakes up? So something like this has been brought up before, whether Levi will suddenly get this memory loss. And to be honest, I really hope that Isayama doesn't introduce this sudden memory loss into Attack on Titan. I mean, I'm sure there are good examples of memory loss or amnesia being written into a story, but in general this memory loss concept is often not used at all in any good ways. If anything, it may even be lazy writing, and I really don't like just throwing that phrase around. Next question from Hyper Games is Hot. Do you think Levi will be out of his coma before the finale of Attack on Titan? Well, this question is actually assuming Levi is in some coma state, which is a possibility. The other possibility is that Levi is just so drastically hurt that he's bedridden. So for this, it really all depends on when Attack on Titan is ending. And also a bigger concern is how hurt is Levi exactly? I mean, whether Levi's sacrament powers allow him to heal more rapidly than other people, and potentially even take far less damage than a normal human being. You still need some time to recover. Time-wise in the Attack on Titan story, the story could be ending in a month or two. I don't know, I think Levi needs to be out for a good chunk of while. Next question from Engeki na Jo-o-sama. Do you think Pieck still believes in Zeke or wants revenge for what he did in Liberio? For this, I really put the chances at maybe 50-50. So far in the Attack on Titan story, Pieck does come off as being this intelligent character. Back in the attack on Marley, Pieck did seem genuinely surprised at the betrayal from Zeke. So right now I really just see Pieck trying to get more information about why Zeke did what he did. So I don't think she necessarily wants revenge now, but maybe based on what Eren tells her about Zeke, she may actually switch into that revenge mode. Next question from Yasir. Do you think we'll get a glimpse of Eren's Tri-Titan transformation in the next chapter, especially during his confrontation with Pieck? So about this, I have been wanting to see Eren's Tri-Titan for the longest. I'm really just curious as to whether his Titan is going to get this updated design. But honestly, I really don't think we're going to get any battle between him and Pieck. For Eren, that'd be an extremely easy victory. I think even Pieck knows that. Next question from Davis. So after watching some of your videos, I noticed that you don't really think that Ymir Fritz existed. Why is that? So for this question, I specifically took it so I could clear up this confusion. I have brought up the possibility of Ymir not actually existing. One main reason just being because the Attack on Titan story actually tells you to question this mysterious past history. I mean, just think about it from the Marley perspective. It would be so easy to just make up this mysterious unknown figure and point to that figure as representing all these Titan Eldian people, and easily label them as being evil and horrible and horrendous. So back to the thing you proposed about me not really thinking that Ymir existed, what I've really been saying is don't discard that possibility. I would say that the chances that some type of Ymir person or figure have actually existed in the past. but I actually do think there's a good decent chunk of possibility that this Ymir person never existed, which really goes back to the idea of Victor's writing history. I'm not putting the chances high, maybe 15, 20, 25%. Next question from Fias. Do Titans see Marlians? If they do, then why? So I think this question has already been addressed in one of the earlier 90 chapters. We actually seen the Marley government use Titans to attack other individuals. Also keep in mind that Titans do use eating as a main way of killing, but they could also kill people in so many other ways. I think in general, Titans are just these killing destruction machines, and killing someone by eating them is just one possible way of them doing it. Next question up from Stephanie. Do you think that Historia could influence Zeke in a positive way? For context, I remember Historia saying that if she sees anyone saying they wish they had never been born, she would tell them that that isn't true. I get the feeling that this will be important soon. So let me address the first thing as to whether someone could possibly influence Zeke in a positive way, in general. For this, Isayama would have to do a damn good job at convincing us. I mean, at this point, Zeke has had almost a lifetime of thinking in this way. Something drastic would have to happen for him to have this sudden change of mind. So in general, do I think Historia could influence Zeke? Whether you could drastically make him change his mind, I'm not sure about that. And just the idea of Historia playing this other important role in the story, I'm definitely for that. Because right now it really seems like Historia is being made into this baby making machine. I mean, just the idea of that being Historia's biggest contribution to the end of the Attack on Titan, the Attack on Titan finale, if it turns out to be only producing a baby, that's definitely not something I'm going to be a fan of. Next question up from Knowing No More. What do you think the path is? Is it like another dimension where the time, the past, the present, the future is all visible and Zeke was granted an enlightenment sort of thing? What do you think Zeke has learned from this experience? So right now, what exactly this path thing or this vision state of Zeke was, that is a huge question. I think this idea of this scene being this possible dimension type of thing is very plausible. I'm definitely very sure you've seen this concept used in several other anime type of series. Most of the time, the main character or some other character having this time-stopping scene, whether it takes place in your mind, your heart, or some other dimension. Whether this dimension is the past, present, and future, I also think that's very likely. Although whether Zeke specifically got access to that, that's another question. I think one of the earlier questions brought up the idea of Zeke having this change of heart. If anything, I'm pretty sure this weird experience for Zeke is gonna definitely influence him going forward. Which really means at a high level now Zeke knows internally there's more to this Titan stuff than he previously realized. Next question from Despair. Simple question, are we gonna see Beyblade Mikasa soon? I think that is definitely a high possibility, and if anything, Isayama depowering or potentially killing off Levi is making room for Mikasa to take over and really fill that Ackerman spot. Although still keep in mind that Levi technically is not dead, so Mikasa should not get this sudden power boost. Although we still don't know how strong Mikasa got after the time skip, there's that too. Next question up from the Meme Queen. When Annie finally wakes up, which side will she take? The Yeager brothers, Surikor, or none? Ah yes, Annie. Wake up, Annie. For this, let me just quickly mention that it really depends on maybe two major things. Annie's mental state at the time that she wakes up. We're still wondering whether she even freaking aged. And also what the other group that woke her up wants to do with her. I mean, if Eren or the Surikor or even the warriors just want to eat Annie, she's definitely going to be against that idea. Next question up from Daskino. Do you think that Pieck will join the Yeager STD group? So really quickly, I did bring up the idea before that I'm not against the idea of Eren actually convincing Pieck over to his side. We have seen Pieck being this very intelligent character, or at least I get that impression. I don't think it'd be too much of a surprise if she finds out Eren's long-term goal, that Pieck switches over not maybe completely to Zeke's side, but Eren's side. At the very least, Pieck should consider switching over to his side and catching him by surprise if she's still 100% a warrior. Next question up from Poka. Since Levi is on the sidelines for the time being, who do you think will take down the Beast Titan? Alright, so far they technically failed to take down the Beast Titan, what, two times? Or I guess they technically took down the Beast Titan but didn't kill him off. To be honest, at this point, I really don't think Zeke is going to get this grand takedown moment. If anything, we still may see this type of thing where Eren backstabs him and just eats Zeke. Either way, I really don't think Zeke is going to get this glorious death or glorious takedown. Next question up from Yeager Soup. Do you think Zeke wants to change his goals after what he saw? Just what did they see in that beautiful color sky? Alright, so really quickly, I have brought up the idea of Zeke potentially being influenced from what he saw in that Titan realm. I'm gonna call it that. However, do I think that Zeke wants to change his goals after what he saw? I mean, so far we haven't really gotten anything out of Zeke to really indicate that or at least to strongly indicate that he wants to change his mind. I guess we'll have to wait until next chapter to see. I'm not discounting the possibility though. Next question up from Sam. What is your opinion on Mikasa now possibly being humanity's strongest soldier? Will she now live up to Levi's expectations? So interesting question about Mikasa being the strongest. To be honest, now that we know about the current state of the world, how much does that really matter when you could really just shoot her? The thing about Levi's expectations, this really just means about whether what people expect about Levi or possibly Levi's own expectations to her? Let me try to answer this in a different way. So far post-time skip, we really haven't seen Levi do anything that special. I mean, we saw Levi take down so many titans in the Titan Forest. I'm pretty sure that Mikasa could at least do that. That really just brings up the question about whether Mikasa could do the things that Levi could have done before the time skip. My money would be on yes. I'm pretty sure that Mikasa has improved to that point. If anything, it's possible that Mikasa has gotten stronger than the point where Levi was before the time skip. Final question from Max. Ymir sensed Historia when Reiner kidnapped her and Eren. When Reiner asked her, "How do you know?" she answered, "I just know." Can this mean sometime Historia will get the Jaws Titan power, and Ymir sends her paths like Armin the fall of the wall? So I got completely lost about the Armin part, so let me address the first part of this. So regarding that particular line from Ymir back in the Clash of the Titans arc, I believe that was around chapter 48 to 50. I would have to double check that. Keep in mind that at that point in the Attack on Titan story, Isayama was not planning to move this past chapter 90. In other words, none of the Marley arc stuff. So do I think initially Isayama wrote that line to mean that Ymir sensed this connection to Historia? To be honest, I would doubt it. Although now that we know where the Attack on Titan story is, past chapter 90, especially with the path things, you can't argue towards that being connected. And as to whether Historia is going to get the Jaws Titan power, at this point I really don't think that Historia is going to be turned into a Titan. I mean, the girl is pregnant. Alright, so I've been doing this Q&A part for an hour and 15 minutes, let me just wrap it up here. If you made it this far, definitely be sure to like and also comment. Definitely subscribe if you're somehow not. If you made it this far, you obviously also like the content, so definitely please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. I don't know whether I'm going to have a full video about this, but I am transitioning to do this full time next month. In other words, I'm going to be relying on you guys to keep the lights on. Or maybe even decide if I get to eat. Go ahead and check out my Patreon down below, link in the description. If you really want to now, you can start sending in questions for the chapter 116 prediction video. Just be sure to use the hashtag. Also, do me a huge favor and post down below if you actually made it to the end of this video. It would really just give me an idea of who exactly is watching, as in giving me a name of the person. Keep in mind these videos get like, what, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 views? But from the YouTube side, that's really just some number. So if you want to let me know you're watching, post down below and I'll see you guys later.